every day. You feel it. The price of living rises, but your income stands still. It's like you're running on a treadmill that's speeding up, while your legs stay the same. But here's the paradox no one wants to admit. When inflation rises, the rich don't just survive. They multiply. They expand. They thrive. Why does the same storm drown millions while lifting a chosen few to higher shores? To understand today, we must glance back. In the 1970s, America faced one of the worst inflation crises in history. Gas doubled. Rent surged. And ordinary households fell apart. Fast forward 50 years. You'd think we learned something. But history repeats, just with shinier packaging. A loaf of bread in 1980 cost 50 cents. Today, it's $3. The median home price in 1980 was $47,000. Today, it's over $420,000. And average wage growth, almost flat. Inflation isn't new, but the gap it creates, that's bigger than ever. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The rich and poor live in the same economy, but they play opposite games. First, the rich don't save money. They save assets. While most people save cash for safety, the wealthy see cash as a melting ice cube. Imagine a middle-class family saves $10,000. If inflation is at 10%, they lose $1,000 in purchasing power without spending a dime. Meanwhile, an investor puts $10,000 into stocks. Even if the market grows 7% while inflation hits 10%, their asset adjusts. Their wealth survives. Second, they use debt as a weapon. Not all debt is bad. Only the debt the poor take. The poor take on credit card debt for consumption, while the rich use business loans or real estate loans to buy assets that rise with inflation. Then, inflation erodes the real cost of their debt. Imagine borrowing a block of ice today, but returning it later after it has melted. That's what inflation does to debt. Third, they buy scarcity. Inflation punishes anything abundant like money, but it rewards anything scarce. So they buy land, rental property, farmland, patents, software rights, precious metals, and tech companies. The poor buy necessities. The rich buy what everyone else will need. Fourth, they own the cash flow, not the expenses. When inflation hits, prices rise. Your salary doesn't. But the rich, they receive the rising prices. For example, you pay $1,500 in rent. When inflation raises, your landlord raises the rent to $1,700. You struggle. The owner profits. You pay more for milk. The dairy company profits. You pay more for gas. The oil company profits. Inflation redistributes wealth from spenders to owners. Finally, they play the long game. The average worker thinks month. The wealthy think decade to decade. Inflation is painful in the short term, but profitable in the long term if you hold assets. Now let's enter the turning point. The moment inflation didn't just rise, it exploded. We're talking about the 2022-2023 spikes. The supply chain collapse, food shortages, the housing crisis, the energy crisis, and the shock of war. For ordinary families, this was disaster. For the wealthy, it was opportunity. Let me tell you a story. A tale of two neighbors living on the same street. On one side is Raj, an office worker. On the other is Arjun, a business owner. Raj saves money in his bank account, works a 9-to-5, and rents an apartment. When inflation hits, his groceries and rent rise, but his salary stays the same. His savings shrink. He has to cut expenses, and he starts to fall behind. Arjun, however, owns 3 rental properties, invests in index funds, and runs a small manufacturing business. When inflation hits, he increases the rent on his properties, giving him more income. His manufacturing costs rise, so he raises his prices. The value of his assets rises, and the real costs of his debt becomes cheaper. His wealth increases. Same street, same inflation. 2 opposite outcomes. It wasn't luck. It was structure. In 2021, Global inflation hit levels unseen in decades. So, what happened? The rich already owned houses, and housing prices skyrocketed. The rich owned stocks, and the market surged. The rich owned businesses, so they raised their prices. The rich held debt, and its real value shrank. Meanwhile, renters paid more. Savers lost value. Salaried workers were stuck. The middle class got crushed. The gap didn't widen slowly. It ripped open. The consequences are clear. We're seeing the vanishing of the middle class. A generation once promised prosperity, now struggles to afford a basic life. People are delaying marriage, skipping vacations, avoiding healthcare, working multiple jobs, and moving back in with their parents. Your dream home is becoming Wall Street's next rental property, as large firms buy entire neighborhoods. Your job becomes less rewarding. You work harder, but feel poorer, because wages don't keep pace with inflation. The economy tilts. The rich own the assets. The poor own the bills. This creates social division, political tension, and economic uncertainty. And here's the painful truth. Inflation is not just an economic event. It's a wealth transfer machine. The rich don't beat inflation because they're lucky. They beat it because they understand its rules. The 3 rules of the rich are: don't save money, save assets. Use debt that inflation destroys. Own what everyone else must buy. And as long as you depend on wages, you're playing a game built for you to lose. So I ask you, if inflation keeps rising, where will you stand? Among those who own the system, or among those crushed by it? Your move.